Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Millennium Alliance. Very excited to be here. We got a great episode for our digital enterprise CIO assembly coming up. And today we're talking to a company that's on a mission to shorten the data to value cycle. And to talk about Datorios, which is the company here, we have Asaf Cohen, better known as Pizzer. He is the CRO at Datorios. Pizzer, welcome to the podcast today. Happy to have you here.
Thank you, Connor. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we're going to talk all about data and technology, and I want to hear just about to start off about yourself and perhaps why what got you started at Datorios.
Great. So as you said, I'm Asaf, or everybody calls me Pizzer. It's a nickname I got in the army. I spent most of my years serving my country at the IDF at Unit 8200. It's the equivalent of the American NSA. I retired after 26 years at the rank of Cohen, after being the deputy commander of the unit, a position in which I led quite a significant changes, both in data and cyber arena. Changes that brought the unit, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but brought the unit to a place that actually leads the world in those fields, especially in cyber, and of course, dealing a lot with data. Like my friend and co-founders at Datorios, I've been dealing with data most of my life. I started my career as an analyst, as data analyst, and progressed through the ranks until I was the commander of the data organization within the unit, within 8200. In the unit, the organization is actually a combination of data engineers, data scientists, data analysis, everything is connected together. The main purpose of those is actually generate insights from huge amount of diverse data to enable high quality and timely decision-making process. The decision-making that in most of the cases directly affected the security of the state of Israel, and in most of the time, even all of the Western world. After I ended my military service a few years ago, I was looking, as well as my partners, to do something significant, to bring a solution to a really difficult problem. And our extensive experience in the world of data, over 30 years of experience, led us to bring a solution to our own frustration with how we dealt with data when we were in the army. A frustration that we learned to be the same in the most, if not all, organizations that actually want to do something with their data. And 2 years ago, we set out with Datorios, that actually means data in Latin, and to bring a solution to this field. And today I look back very proud to see what we did and how we've been successful in that arena.
That's an incredible story, Pizzer. Thanks for sharing that. And you have a lot of experience, and then after decades of service, in the Israeli elite intelligence forces. And I'm assuming there you were collecting data and connecting information. So what lessons may have you learned as a leader in the Israeli intelligence unit? How did that impact the formation of Datorios and the solution that you're providing now?
Okay, great. So as I said, Datorios was founded on our frustration with the way data was handled. For me personally, I can point a significant event that brought me to the understanding of the depth of the gap and how much a solution to this area is needed to be brought. Back in 2015, when ISIL was carrying out terror attack around the world, Unit 8200 provided a lot of information, a lot of data to all of our allies throughout the world, which allowed the warning and foiling of many of the attacks. One of the attacks that was published, cases that were published, information was gathered about 2 terrorists that planted explosive in a meat grinder and was about to detonate it on a plane that was supposed to take off from Australia. A warning was sent to the Australian authorities, and the terrorists actually were caught 2 days before they intended to carry out the attack. It was a huge success. 2 weeks after, an attack was carried on one of the capital of Europe. We were very, very frustrated that we weren't able to give a timely warning about this attack as well. And when we checked ourselves, look back, we found that actually we have the relevant data, but the processing of it was delayed and not performed in time. At that point, I realized that not like what most of the people actually thought. It's not about the collection of the data. It's much more about handling it. Because suddenly I found out that actually we deal with just friction of the data itself. We have so much data, we can generate so many insights from it, but we actually use very little of it in order to bring much more. While, we spent amount of resources about storing the data, but we didn't extract relevant information from it. When we founded Datorios, it was clear to us that we had to bring a solution that significantly shortened the time of data handling and bring those responsible for the business question much closer to those actually responsible for the transformation of the data. It was clear to us that we must break the serial process, which is based on code that is getting heavier and heavier in light of the complexity of the data, and create simpler and more interactive process. And this is actually what we're doing.
That's fascinating. But I want to mention, because you mentioned your frustration about the way data was handled during these military years. And now, as a data leader, in today's data world, what do you think are the main challenges that we're seeing out here?
So actually, there are quite a few challenges when we talk about data. Everyone can point numerous of those. But if I try to focus on the main four we mark for ourselves as the most significant, so first of all, I start by saying the complexity and diversity of data. The world is going on producing more and more data, and as we go, there are more and more different formats of the data. The complexity of building data pipelines become very, very more and more complicated, especially when we're talking about maintaining them over time. Second, the reliance on code. It's getting heavier and heavier, as I said, along with the growing shortage of data engineers. In fact, even when organizations have data engineers, instead of investing them in the real complex, hard problems in the core of the business, they are forced to engage in the day-to-day chores of building pipelines to all kinds of business questions. The third is the lack of holistic end-to-end solution for all the needs. When we're talking about data handling, it doesn't end with building the data pipeline, but also it must require dealing with quality and visibility of the data. Today, in order to produce a holistic solution, organization must require to equip with countless partial solutions whose direct cost and the cost of integration between them are very, very high. And the fourth, last but certainly not least, cost, and cost. If you want to master the world of data, many resources are required. Even organizations that think that their data infrastructure can be built cheaply and with minimal investment of personnel, discover very, very quickly that they are forced to pour in more and more resources in order to grow and maintain what has been created up to that point. As a result, only those who can invest many resources can drive insight from the data, which gives them a significant advantage in the market. And it can't be like that because everybody has data. So everybody is allowed, it must, to build their own data infrastructure and to gain insights from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Data is everywhere. And so, those are some interesting challenges and very relevant: complexity, reliance on code, that end-to-end, and of course, cost. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the optimistic side of things. How would you describe your vision for the world of data?
Connor, approximately 2 decades ago, when you looked at the cellular communication, just those who possess knowledge and resources could enjoy from it. Today, everybody has access, everybody can access to the technology, can choose, how to use it, and in very reasonable cost. It's in the palm of your hand, actually. You can do whatever you want. The STEM revolution has to come to data. Data also needs to be able to become a commodity. So every data person in every organization would be able to consume it, transform it, and generate value from it in according to his or her business needs. And all this at reasonable cost that is adaptable to each of the organization. I think that as a society, we should strive for a situation where organizations are able to handle all data using a very simple and affordable solution.
You talked about the desire for everyone to be able to generate insights from their data, and they have a lot of it. And the idea rings a bell that the endless discussions about code versus no code, what do you think is better to create data pipelines, with code or no code?
Oh, the question, it's like asking me which religion is better or who I like more, my father or my mother. I love them both.
Yeah.
In recent years, actually, there's been an inflation of number of no-code or low-code platforms. But those actually suffered from two main problems. First of all, engineers like to write code, and rightly so, by the way. And the second, lack of flexibility, because there is always a use case that will require a unique transformation of data, which cannot be done without code. On the other hand, relying on code makes data handling very, very slow, very, very complex. I talked about it already, and taking a lot of time, especially when we're dealing with the code maintenance. But the real question, Connor, is actually, why do we have to choose between the two? Why not enjoy both worlds? The ideal combination between them, the ability to handle data in code and perform maintenance, or even building data pipeline without code where possible, and by those who actually don't write code. In that way, it will be possible to enjoy both the flexibility provided by the code and the agility provided by the no code.
Yeah, Pizzer, I think you're onto something. There's definitely truth in what you're saying. There's really no reason to choose, but in another way to say it, to allow the combination between them. But I want to return to the vision that you just first described. You talked about this desire to make data a commodity, and and it should be. How do you think the issue can be realized, given that many resources that companies are currently investing in the integration of their data? Why is it so expansive and complicated to manage? I have a feeling of what we're going to say.
I think the main reason for the high cost lies in the many solution, the friction of solution, each of which addresses a small part of the data handling process, and each of which consume procurement and integration resources. In fact, today, an organization requires a solution for the extraction and sync phase of the data sources. The transformation phase, which sometimes is performed in the data warehouse itself, which generates additional costs. Monitoring of the data, visibility of the data, and if you want to reverse the process, so you need reverse ETL capabilities as well. And by the way, I can go on and on about other issues as well. Each of those capabilities requires investment of resources, often both financial and high quality of personnel. Another reason is the pricing configuration of the various data services companies. Companies should pay for the value they generate from the data, but as long as the pricing is based on the amount of data that enters the various platform, the cost will only increase, since the amount of data is only increasing. I'll tell you a secret. There is no reason for this pricing configuration other than the company's desire to increase profits.
So I have an idea. Let's take this code and power it with great technology, which is where you guys come in. So in what ways do you see Datorios contributing in an ideal data world?
So I've waited for this question, of course, Cohen. You know, in a world of diverse data that is constantly changing, Datorios actually solves the challenging of building data pipelines and make it simple and enjoyable task. By using Datorios capabilities, the time it takes to build data pipelines can be reduced dramatically, and then the friction of the current costs. With Datorios, organization can handle more data without the need to increase the number of data experts on the teams. Datorios allowed its customers to run their code in the ideal orchestration environment, SaaS or on-prem, with complete code and no code flexibility to design, implement, monitor the data pipeline using the power of Apache Kafka and the Kubernetes. But it's even more than that. Data infrastructure today needs to be the cradle for data discovery, data quality, validation, correction, and visibility. And it shouldn't be an add-on, but an integrated and essential part of the infrastructure of the organization. And that's what Datorios do. Our customer can connect, transform, and observe the data in high performance, increasing data to value efficiency. And all of this at a very reasonable cost, because the Datorios, our customer, pay according to the value they obtain the data, and not according to the amount of data that passes through the platform. Actually, I invite everybody to try to see them themselves. You know, I'm talking with quite a lot of people, and when we describe our solution, some of them say, hey, it can't be. But when we show them what you do and let them try it by themselves, they actually discover that it can be done. Actually, we did it.
That's awesome, Pizzer. And I can't let you go. This has been a great conversation, but I can't let you go until I know what the future looks like for Datorios. There are limitless possibilities on a platform made for any environment of any size, all in the most secure setting. So in what ways do you see Datorios growing further? And what does the future really look like in the next 2 to 5 years in this space?
So, you know, due to the fact that, as I said, the amount of data is just going to be increased as we go, and the complexity as well, we are going to go on and try to make it even simpler, to bring some add-ons to allow you to actually monitor the data in a way that you will be able to get alerts about what is going on with the data when you work with it. We're going to let you visualize the data as long as you build the pipeline, so you'll be able to stop in any phase to say, hey, something is not as I imagined it to be. You'll be able to go back and change it quite easily, do the configuration. And where I look even much further, I think we'll be able to learn how you build your pipeline and give you some advices. How is the best way to go? What is the best transformer you should add? Maybe you should actually go and write some Python in order to finish the pipeline, or actually we build it already for you. We build another layer with the platform that exists now. But actually, nowadays, the Datorios have the functionality that allow you to go on and do some miracles. And you don't even need to wait for the future.
That's so awesome. Well, Pizzer, thank you so much. This was a great conversation. Thank you for joining Millennium Live and talking about Datorios and the solution that you provide. Thank you, and we'll see you in Denver.
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much, Cohen.